You're locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal from somewhere beyond the status quo, here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio. It's the show that helps you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. Well, as the tagline says, we are focused on building the business, but the point is to live the life that you want to live. To do that, my question is, do you have a strategy to accomplish that? You know, I'm a marketing strategist, media strategist, communication strategist, business strategist. There's a strategy to get where you want to be. But have you thought about the fact that we might need a strategist for our life as well? That's also important if we want to get to the level of achievement that we want to get to. And today's guest is going to help us do that by answering the question, what does it mean to live in full expression? I'm speaking with Jim Phillips. He is a life strategist, author, speaker, and business coach. Through his work, Jim inspires others to higher levels of achievement and life fulfillment, helping them understand what has been misunderstood. He has written 2 books, The Key to Life, Living in Full Expression, and From Inspiration to Intention, and he has appeared as an expert in the movie Becoming the Keys. So Jim Phillips, welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Thanks, Ralph. My pleasure to be here.
This is very interesting because as I say, we talk about business strategy and marketing strategy, and it seems like we've got these other strategies either dialed in or we are at least aware of our need for a strategy. And I wonder if people are really that intentional when it comes to getting a strategy for their life. So tell us a little bit more about what you do as a life strategist and what's your background.
Well, it is kind of interesting using the analogy you did of business versus life. We're more apt to do those things that there's a more specific focus on it, like business, or even if we're talking about hiring a coach to help us with our workout strategies. But what I'm finding is that people are surprised by what shows up in life. And they'll say that, well, this isn't what I intended. This isn't what I expected to have happen. But as you said, they don't do anything intentionally to create the sort of circumstances that they're actually looking for. Or if we want to use, they're not creating the success that they're looking for. So really what I do with my work is I help them identify where it is that they feel. The word stuck gets used all the time, and I guess that's probably an appropriate word. It's where people get to a point where they just feel like there's absolutely something in their way. They can't proceed, and quite frankly, it's because they don't know where they're going. And that gets back to the original point. They haven't taken the time to identify what it is they're trying to do with their lives outside of having a good job and making money and being able to pay bills and things of that nature. Yeah. You ask as part of that question, a little bit about me and what I do. Mm-hmm. What I share with people and through the life strategy work that I do, it's as a result of different experiences that I have had through my life, and recognizing that really anything that I want to have in life is available to me if I identify what it is, and then I get intentional about the steps that I take to move towards it. And then maybe this is going to sound a little sound like something that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. And that is, then we have to get out of the way and we have to allow what it is we set in motion to actually take place, which will always take us to where it is we want to go.
Yeah. Why is it that we keep getting in the way of our own success? We talk about self-sabotage a lot. Mm-hmm. And it seems like, if we know what we want and we identify the steps that we want to take to get to where we want, it seems pretty cut and dry. Why is it so hard for people, myself included?
I think the biggest thing really is it's fear. I think that even though we have this idea of what it is that we want, And we start looking at, well, what is it that I need to do to get to where I want to go? And then all of a sudden fear sets in. And it's not fear like you would be afraid if a rhino all of a sudden ran in the room and started breaking everything up. It's more or less the fear we hold within ourselves. Number one, of what if I don't succeed? So then the comfort level is, oh, it'd be better just to stay where I am than actually go through that process and have that feeling of failure. Or what are other people going to say? How are they going to relate to me? And I think that gets in the way. And plus, it's easier. It's easier to allow those excuses that we have to hold us back than it is to have the courage and be bold enough to continue to step forward into whatever it is that we say we want to have.
I like that. And I wonder, as I consider your answer, that fear is really at the root of it. Fear of failure, fear of other people, what they may think. And it's like we own that and we identify as a fearful person. And that kind of lets us off the hook. It gives us an excuse why we're not making progress or why we have failed in the past and why we should not take chances in the future. But that triggers a question, because a lot of people are working in the area of helping others to find their purpose. And a lot of people say, well, I just don't know what my purpose is, or I don't know that I am passionate about anything. Is that really true, or is it just another manifestation of fear? I'm afraid to commit to a purpose. I'm afraid to get passionate about something because I may be doing it wrong or I may fail. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll answer the question initially with one of the quotes that's in my book, and that is, there is no right path, there is no wrong path, there is your path, follow it. And I say that because too often we measure ourselves against what other people are doing. We look at how other people have done what they've done, and maybe they've had a certain level of success, and we say, okay, it was because of what they did. Most of the time people become successful is because of who they are. And that's why this whole quote about there is no right path or wrong path, there's your path, follow it. That's why it's so important, because each one of us is here to do our own thing, to be who we are. And that's where the whole idea of living in full expression is. It's living in full expression of your truth, of my truth, anybody's respective truth. And as we do that, we're going to be successful. Now, it might not be that we have a life that's going to be shown on the big stage of life, so to speak. It doesn't mean that you're going to be someone who writes a best-selling book, or that you're going to be in a Broadway play, or that you're going to be the President of the United States. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing what your soul intended for you to do during this lifetime. So it's living in full expression of that. So then the big question is, okay, well, how do I discover that? And the easiest two questions to ask just to get people to open to that idea, and it's quite simple. It's, what do you like to do and what are you good at? And really tapping into that and not allowing there to be any excuses whatsoever as to why you don't do it. Now, with the coaching clients that I work with, that's one of the first things that we talk about. I'll ask them, what is it you want to accomplish with your life? What is it you want to do? What is it that's in you that has this incredible desire to get out, that wants to be expressed? And they'll give me an idea of what that is. And I'll say, well, why haven't you allowed that to happen? And there's all kinds of excuses to why. There's not enough time. There's not enough money. There's not enough whatever. And I'll say, well, why are you looking at this as that being the only way that what you want to accomplish can be accomplished? You know, let's just use money as an example. Somebody will say, well, I can't do this because I don't have enough money. Well, how many other ways is it possible for somebody to accomplish what they want to accomplish without having money? And so without having a specific task or goal that somebody wants to achieve, as an example right now. But the point is, we've become too narrow focused. And that gets back to what you were just saying, Ralph. We allow ourselves to have these very simple, easy ways to say no, instead of looking at all the, I'm just going to say, unlimited ways that we could probably achieve what it is that we want to achieve. It's just easier.
Mm. Yeah, it's like we make it very easy to say no to things, and we make it very complicated to say yes. And so that the idea here is, well, let's flip that around. Let's make it very easy to say yes and make it very complicated to say no, so that we are essentially extending ourselves out there and moving forward in areas. You said the two areas are, what do we like to do? And then what are we good at? And it may be that, somewhere in there, our passion as well as our skill is discovered and we can begin to pursue it. The name of your book is The Key to Life. And we should mention that life is, you're using life as an acronym. It's living in full expression. And this is what we've been talking about. What does living in full expression mean to Jim Phillips and to the clients that you are working with?
It's really about living in full expression of your truth. And, that begets the question, okay, well, what is my truth? And that's what each one of us are here, in my opinion, on this planet to discover, to reveal to ourselves who we truly are. And I'll just say that as we stand in front of the mirror in the morning and we're looking into the mirror, we identify with what we see reflected back to us, that's who I am. I'm that physical body that's there. My question would be, who is it looking out of the eyes that sees the reflection in the mirror of that physical body? Because we're not the physical body. We're the entity that's within the body. The body is the vehicle for us to experience and express through and as while we're here on the planet. So it's about getting to that true essence. And you can say divine essence, you can say God essence. I mean, any term that somebody wants to use that would allow them to be in touch with that, the higher self. That's another term that we can use that maybe people feel a little bit more comfortable with. It's about allowing that to be the expression that we have in this world. And when I say expression, it's how we're perceived. It's how we are living in this world. It's how we're interacting with other people. It is how we feel about ourselves. It's the dynamics of life. And I think as we get a greater understanding, and this is part of what in the introduction where you said, I help people understand what's been misunderstood. And the most misunderstood thing is who we are and what we're capable of doing. And the biggest reason why we don't do the things we're capable of doing is, number one, we don't feel that we can. We don't feel that we're good enough. We don't feel that we have the skills, the tools, any of the resources necessary to do it. And then probably primary to that is going to be we don't feel we're worthy of it, that these grand things of life are for other people. And we'll look at other people's lives and make an assumption that their life is this incredible, wonderful thing, usually because of the stuff they have, usually because of the material prosperity that we can see, big cars, big houses, lots of money, nice clothes, great relationships. I mean, all of that. And yet we all know that regardless of that facade, there is a lot of suffering that people go through. And to me, that suffering that we go through, the stress of life, is that we're denying our true identity. We're getting too attached to and caught up in all the material aspects of life instead of letting that go and understand that it's fine to have all those things. It's wonderful to go out and achieve, and it's wonderful to make a lot of money. However, if we become attached to that and we say, well, if I don't have this, I'm no longer worthy of anything, right? If I don't have this job, then I'm not the same person I am. And we have to understand that even without that stuff, you are the same as you were prior to having any of those things that you might have obtained over the course of your lifetime.
Yeah. Very important to remember. And it's really about, figuring out how we're going to measure success. It's kind of like figuring out what your truth is. How do you define success? And there is no right or wrong answer because people define that differently. But I would think the highest form of success would be being true to yourself. And it certainly is going to go beyond the material things that we may look at. It's nice to have, but that's not who we are. We can still be who we are with or without those things. Now, you have been at this. You're not someone who just, has come to these realizations overnight. For more than 30 years, you've been working with people, inspiring them to hire levels of understanding and achievement. You had to have some experiences first to learn these lessons before you could pass them on. So I'm really interested in what was your journey like? What were the catalysts that got you to where you are and then turn your life to a point where you're going to begin serving and sharing these truths with other people?
Well, is that your nice way to say I'm not a spring chicken?
Well, neither one of us are. Well, I think there's lately that, it seems like everybody is a coach, and how long have they been coaching? And, majority of them less than 5 years. So if you find someone that has been at this for quite some time, it's kind of rare. So, neither one of us are spring chickens. We've been at this when being at it wasn't cool.
Yeah, really. Here's what I found, that for me to be effective as a coach or life strategist, or to write as I have written and to do workshops and that sort of thing, I have to have lived the experience. I can't just sit there and throw out a bunch of conjecture.
Right.
It has to be something that I can speak to from the heart. And the only way for me to really do that is to have had the experience. But I'm also careful to let people know that my experience doesn't mean it's going to be the same for them. It's just my experience. And then when I share the information with them, it's just my perspective. It doesn't mean it's going to be the same for them. But I think the point that people get, and it certainly is what I intend for people to get from me, and that is that you are to live your life as fully and completely as possible. You are to follow those inspirations that you're given. And when I use the word inspiration, it's not a whim. It's about some deep felt inspiration of something that you have this incredible, insatiable desire to create, to experience, to allow to come out into the world. And that to me is the essence of living in full expression. It's about allowing that. And I'm going to use the words that I use when I speak on this, but what I've written in my book too. And sometimes people say, well, why do you say it that way? Well, it's because it's the way I was given it. It's the way that makes the most sense to me. So it's about allowing that which desires to be expressed through us to be expressed. And this also gets back to getting out of the way, because we get to a point where maybe we have this incredible desire, this inspiration that we're giving, and we start taking the necessary steps just based on whatever it is that we're trying to create. And then we start having second thoughts. We start saying, well, this isn't going to work, or this is impossible, or nobody's ever done this before. Or again, what are other people going to say? And I think we have to be really careful that we don't have this expectation of what we say it has to be. We can have an expectation of what we would like it to be. However, we have to let it be the way that it wants to be. And I will say this with every fiber of my being, it will always turn out greater than we thought it would if we give it that opportunity. We limit ourselves, I think, too often by setting a goal and we say this is the way it's got to be, and we don't deviate from that. We have to be willing to allow much more than what we expect to take place.
Yeah, and I think part of that is from the whole goal setting information that we've received that suggests once you set a goal, you never let it go. That may or may not be useful to us where we are. Perhaps we're setting the wrong goals and we need to let them go. Or what happens very often is we set a goal and we get an idea in our mind of how we should go about achieving that goal, and that's what we're calling strategy. But sometimes you got to use a different approach, a different strategy to achieve the goal. You're not letting go of the goal, but you're being flexible in your approach, and that's really what being a strategist is all about, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm sure you go through this process too. We can set an initial strategy or a framework, doesn't matter what word we use. But to me, there's the necessity of being flexible, because as you start taking steps, as you open yourself to whatever it is you're trying to accomplish to actually be accomplished, more resources, more opportunities, different people, a lot of different circumstances are going to show up. And I think if we try to stick too rigidly to whatever the original framework was, we're going to miss the opportunity to have something much greater than we thought. So it's about being flexible. It's about being aware. I mean, really paying attention to what's happening around us. And then I'll also say, extremely important and probably more important, paying attention to how we feel. What is it within us that is guiding us to move in this direction or that direction, or to do certain things that maybe we're uncomfortable about. But yet, if we're bold enough to take that step forward, we're going to have much greater success than we ever imagined we would.
Yeah, very good. So you are the author of a couple of books, The Key to Life, Living in Full Expression, and From Inspiration to Intention. You also work with people in the area of life strategy and coaching. Tell us a little bit about your coaching programs and who you work with and how you work.
A lot of the people that I work with I'm a baby boomer, and I'm going to say most of the people that I work with are probably age 45, 50, up to 65 and 70, within that range. And as a baby boomer, I understand this, or I understand what I'm about to say, and that is that we get to a point in life, and it doesn't matter how much success we've had, or it doesn't matter if we've had what we might consider a challenging life. I think people get to a point and they say, this can't be what this is about. There has got to be something grander about life than what I've already experienced. And I think it's particularly interesting when you talk to people who have had a good life by all measures, financial success, relationship success, job success, kids are doing well. And yet they get to that point and they say, this has been okay, but that something's not right. And they just feel like there's something else that either they're intended to do, something they need to experience, just something within them that has to get expressed. And that's what I believe is where we get to that point of we have to allow whatever it is within us that wants to be expressed. So what I do with my coaching and my life strategy sessions is help people identify what that is. What is it that is really trying to be expressed, or what is seeking fulfillment through that individual? And then as we can discover what that is, and it can be something as I'm going to say as simple as, it can be as simple as maybe somebody all their lives wanted to learn how to play the piano, and they just never did. They never gave themselves that opportunity to do it. But yet it's been something within them for whatever reason that they always wanted to do. And then I'll just say, well, so why aren't you playing the piano? Well, I'm too old. It's just not something I should be doing at my age. People are going to think I'm silly and all that kind of stuff. And yet, when we work through it, we find out that what it's all about for them is that playing the piano makes them feel much better about themselves. It makes them feel creative. It allows them to express in a way that they haven't allowed themselves to express during their lifetime. Now, some people will say, yeah, but I can't make any money with that. Well, my question back would be, who said that your passion has to pay the bills?
Right.
Your passion is allowing yourself to have that tremendous fulfillment that I think most of us want in life. And again, it could be something as simple as wanting to play the piano and singing and writing songs. And I've got a really good friend of mine. She's I think right now she's probably, she's somewhere between 55 and 60 years old. And it was only about 3 or 4 years ago that she started painting. And she was never an artist. She's now selling her artwork online.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy, but she got to that point and we had some conversations about it. And I encouraged her as much as I did. And she was just dabbling in it at first. And all of a sudden it became this incredible, artistic expression that she had, where she's now painting all the time. And when I say all the time, like a couple of paintings a day. I mean, it has been crazy. But I think that's what we need to understand, is that there is something within us. And, again, we got to let go of the idea that our life's calling or the passion that we have is going to save the world. It's not. It's about saving ourselves. It's about allowing ourselves to have the life experience that we want. And as we do that, as more and more people follow their passion, allow that which desires to be expressed through them to be expressed, we serve as an example to other people of what's possible. And ideally open them to their passion, their calling, if you want to use that, whatever their bliss is. It's an amazing thing when we see it, and it's so powerful. So to get more specific to your question, that's what I do. I help people find that for themselves, open themselves up to it, get out of their own way, allow allow the expression to take place. Hold them accountable. I mean, that's a big part of it too with any kind of a coaching or strategy program. It's holding people accountable and calling them out when they're starting to self-sabotage. Question why they're doing it or why they're not doing something that they said they wanted to do that would lead them to what it is they're trying to accomplish.
Sure. Well, this has been very, very interesting as we consider the importance of this. And you've got a great resource on your website, which is, livinginfullexpression.com. It's a free book, 5 Keys to Creating Your Ideal Life. It's a free guide and online support system for creating the life that you desire. And so I encourage our listeners, if you want to find out more about Jim Phillips and his view and his unique approach to life fulfillment, living in full expression, go check that out. Livinginfullexpression.com is the website. Jim, thank you so much for being on the show today. Any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you would like to leave us with?
Well, I'm going to get back to the quote that I mentioned earlier, and that is that there is no right path or wrong path. There is your path. Follow it. And what I would recommend everybody do or not do is don't measure yourself against other people. You're not them. They're not you. You're here to live your own life the way that you were intended to live it. You're here to live your life so that you find the fulfillment you're looking for. It's not about living up to other people's expectations. In many cases, it's not even living up to our own expectations, which in many cases are unrealistic expectations. But it's about allowing your life to be what it's intended to be and embracing it and enjoying it and loving it and being an example to other people of what's possible.
Yeah. Words of wisdom. And that makes a lot of sense. Mr. Jim Phillips, he is a life strategist, author, speaker, and business coach. He inspires others to higher levels of achievement and life fulfillment, helping them understand what has been misunderstood. He has written 2 books, The Key to Life, Living in Full Expression, and From Inspiration to Intention. You can find out more and download that free resource, 5 Keys to Creating Your Ideal Life, at livinginfullexpression.com. Jim, it's been a real pleasure to get to know you. Thank you so much for being on Rebelpreneur Radio today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob. It's been my pleasure. Enjoyed it as well.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at rebelpreneur.com.